Welcome to You May Contribute a Verse. I'm Brenna Jenneret, children's book author of the upcoming nonfiction picture book, A Bike is Not Just a Bike, all about how the bicycle helped to usher in the women's revolution. Illustrated by Michelle Piaria and launching July 21st, 2026. Now available for pre-order. And I'm joined by my co-host, Josh Munkin, dad, kidlit author, and science communicator. This episode is proudly sponsored by Canadian children's book publisher Tilmore Press, where every book sold supports reforestation. Check out Tilmore's newest release, Enough to Share, written by Mary Helen Berg and illustrated by Sue Todd. It's a warmly illustrated book about our beautiful and fragile planet, with themes of sharing and the importance of coexistence. Check out this title and the full Tilmore catalog at tilmorepress.com. Including titles like Naked, Fungi Are More Than Mushrooms, and Supermoon. Today's guest is Heather Preusser, author of the Hedgehog Whodunit series, illustrated by Gal Weisman. Let me blow your mind for a second. Hedgehog was originally a picture book draft. It took Heather 3 years to come to terms with the book becoming a chapter book, but only after the great Jane Yolen prompted her to. We chat all about this, the process, the book events, and if you listen to the very end, Heather was kind enough to read us the very first draft of Hedgehog for the Dead Manuscript Society. You'll want to make sure to stick around for the whole story, Jane Yolen and all. Here's Heather's verse. That connection. So we have a corgi also, and he's like, Mama, he's like, Frank's is like a really big guinea pig. I think the guinea pigs think that she's like their queen. I was like, oh God, there it is. Anyways.
There's definitely a story there.
Right? And hello, Heather. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Yeah,
I'm sorry for the running monologue. I just wanted to let you guys know about this.
Within 2 minutes, we landed on the episode title, Guinea Pig Plans.
I was just thinking that.
Finn will be so pleased. I gotta tell him when he gets home. So Heather, I wanted to jump in with, we are both in Colorado, and you must be kind of local to me because you're going to be at the Longmont Library next week. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
I live 2 blocks from that library.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Josh messaged me this morning. He's like, hey, did you know that she's going to be right there? And I was like, oh, snap. No, I was just reacclimating with your website and stuff. Yeah. So very cool. How has your book launch been so far? Because I looked at the list of where you were, and it was, in and around Boulder Bookstore and all the.
You're hustling. Yeah.
Yeah. I did a lot of events this summer. I wanted to reach out to the library. So we're in Lafayette. So we're 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And my son and I are at the Lafayette Library at least once a week.
Amazing.
And then
do you guys go to the Reed? Sorry, do you go to the Reed Queen bookstore? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah,
his preschool actually is just around the corner from them.
Cool. Yeah, I did a author, local author event. It was 2 weekends ago when they have the farmers market, and so they had author tables outside. And I did that as a little, anyways, crazy. Yeah, you guys
I
are
wish
just
I knew you were there.
I know. It's, anyways. So, I'm sorry, during COVID,
we were making the rounds, Lafayette Library, Louisville Library, Boulder Library.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to give back and thank the librarians for everything that they did. So I did an event at both the Lafayette Library and the Louisville Library connected to their summer reading.
Cool.
And then I did a couple of events at local bookstores as well.
Yeah, cool. How has it been? And it said, I was reading, and a scavenger hunt seems like such a fun, interactive thing to offer. I mean, and not only because it's on theme, but just kids love a scavenger hunt. So how has that been going?
That's been the hit, really, is the scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
That's the fun part. So my son comes to all of the events. He's 5. And
so sweet.
He loves the scavenger hunt. So we do. I typically read aloud, the first chapter or so, and then we do a scavenger hunt. And while they're doing the scavenger hunt, I'm setting up a craft. And now my son really likes to hand out the prizes for the scavenger hunt.
That's really
Makes him feel
sweet.
fancy.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
That would be, it would be very endearing to find out that your son was, 27 years old or something.
So,
you're clearly not old enough to have a 27-year-old son. I'm just
maybe he'll still be helping me when he's 27.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe
know.
so. It won't be such a pleasure. Or maybe it will. I don't know. So, go ahead. You inhaled, Brenna.
It's okay. No, you go ahead.
No, you're doing coffee. my initial thought when you talk about doing a read aloud of the first chapter is that your books are perfect for that sort of tantalizing glimpse into the central mystery. The first chapter is designed with mysteries like yours to get hooks in. You're intentional with that. I'm really getting into the weeds of how you write, like from the get-go, and we'll back off of that into more general stuff. Like it's really a conducive format to that sort of tease.
Mm-hmm. And it took me a while to get there, honestly. This book started out as a picture book, and it was a really bad picture book. I don't know if we want to do the dead manuscript later, but I can certainly pull out the first draft of it as a picture book. But that was one of the things that I struggled with, and that I took a class, Marcy Colleen's class through the Writing Barn.
Yeah.
And she talked about layering, like a layer cake versus a crumb cake, and how novelists insert crumbs that they then circle back to throughout a novel. But with a chapter book, with emergent readers, we really need layers, right? We need to establish the main character. We need to establish the setting. Then we need to establish the problem. And I was just kind of doing it all at once. And so it took some revision to really get those layers down. And once I got those layers down in book one, I was like, great, there's my formula. And I would use my own text as a mentor text for book two and book three.
It was smart.
Using your
I think I stole that trick from Marcy too.
Using your own book as mentor text. Both, I mean, I'm assuming what you mean by that is both like structurally so that you can maintain consistency, but also because you've sort of encapsulated what you want to learn from what you've learned, or what you want to leverage from what you've learned previously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it is a series, but each book does stand alone. So you don't have to read them in order. And so I want them to feel similar. But also, yeah, for emergent readers, you just want to, in that first chapter, like set up who's in this story and where are they and what's the problem. And then, we have the essentially the step into act two by the end of that first chapter, right? Like Hitch is like, oh, okay, fine. Like the only way I'm going to get some peace and quiet and be able to nap anytime soon is if I get this rat off my case and I have to solve whatever he wants me to solve. And so I'm going to reluctantly do that. And we start in chapter two with the whole process of taking that on, essentially.
Yeah. Wow. And so let's go back to how it started as a picture book, because I feel like, lots of people get that feedback from critique groups or, editors or paid opportunities or whatever, where it's like, oh, hey, you actually have a lot of story here. Maybe it's, too much to put into a picture book, or maybe, this idea is bigger than what you think it is. So what was that like for you? Like, was that the case? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, no, it was the case. So yeah, it came out as a picture book, and I was doing an Inked Voices class with Sean McCarthy, and both
the agent. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And both Sean and pretty much every member of the group was like, I don't know if this doesn't want to be a picture book.
Mm.
And at that point I was like, because I had spent years trying to learn the craft of writing picture books. And my first picture book came out in 2017. I think I started writing around 2011. And that was through the Lighthouse Writers Workshop.
Oh, yeah.
In Denver.
That's a local workshop, Josh. Yeah.
Yeah. And Linda Ashman taught that class back when she used to live here in Colorado, which was amazing.
Yeah.
So I just spent years like learning the craft and learning about picture books, and certainly still have more to learn. But I was so reluctant when I heard that initial feedback that no, actually this wants to be a chapter book. Part of me was like, I think I can make this like chapter book want to be a picture book. Like, just give me some time. Like, surely I could fit this like square peg into a round hole or whatever. And so I was really reluctant and really stubborn. And I was also, I think, a little scared. I didn't know anything about chapter books. I had studied picture books. For part of my MFA thesis, I wrote a middle grade novel in prose, but I didn't know like what came between those. And so I was scared to take on a whole new challenge, a whole new category. And I hemmed and hawed for 3 years. And then
3
finally,
years.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And not that I was like actively, every day.
You're not like
Right.
not doing anything else. Like all you can think about is this hedgehog and how to make his story
Right.
bigger. No, no.
Right. Tantrums on the floor. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. So it took me 3 years. So the Mother Nature sort of intervened. I did the Whispering Pines writing workshop. I want to say it was in 2018, maybe. And a big nor'easter hit, and we all had to be evacuated. And it was in Rhode Island, maybe, or New England. I can't quite remember. But we ended up, there was 4 of us who had all taken part in Jane Yolen's picture book boot camp that she and
Cool.
her daughter Heidi initially did at their home and then did at Highlights Retreat. And so we had all met through that, and they ended up taking us in for the night. And we were just sitting around Jane Yolen's dinner table that evening, and they fed us, and she was just asking us all what we were working on. And I was telling them, well, I have this picture book manuscript, and everyone tells me it wants to be a chapter book, but I'm scared to try it. And in her like Jane Yolen generous way, she was like, Heather, get your butt in the chair and write the book. What are you scared of? And I was like, okay, I'm going to write the book, because when Jane Yolen tells you to write a book,
Right.
you write the book. So,
Wow, thank goodness for Jane Yolen. I mean, you could just still be in your house, like,
I
trying to
probably
make
would
this
be.
into a picture book.
Yeah. So I read like every chapter book I could get my hands on. I also met Marcy Colleen through Jane Yolen's picture book boot camp. We were there at the same time. We were in the same debut picture book group when our first picture books came out in 2017.
Crazy.
And so
Wow.
I took her class. Like I was just like all in, like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to learn the craft now. I'm going to learn it with chapter books. And I dove in, and I think we sent it out for the first round in 2019.
Wow. So, I mean, first of all, like, yeah, I get being like, no, like, I have this vision and like it should go in, it should be a picture book and like I don't, and then like moving into sort of like, I'm a little bit scared, like I'm gonna have to, figure this out. And then not only that, but like I immediately am just like, oh God, that's so daunting. Like I have, 500 words of a book that I think should be this book, and you're telling me it needs to be a chapter book, which is like, quadruple the size essentially, and like a lot more sort of like moving pieces and like you're saying layers and all the things, and that just feels very overwhelming. So I get how, why it took you a couple of years to sort of come around to it before jumping in. And then so then let's pick up at 2019, because these books just came out, which is that's a crazy timeline. So did you send them out on your own, or were you agented? And then, with either of those, what was the feedback like? Like, what were the revisions in between? Like, tell us all about that journey.
Yeah. So it took, and I just checked this because I talk about the writing process with my students. I also teach 9th grade English. And
oh, you're brave. You're so brave. I feel like 9th grade is like, I'd be like, you're like big kids.
But they are like big kids, honestly. They're bigger versions of my son. So I double checked the dates, but it was 12 years between when I wrote down that first idea as part of Tara Lazar's. It was still Paibo Idmo.
I was going to say, was it the old acronym? Yeah. Oh, crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but it took me, I checked my notebook. I didn't touch that idea. I had this idea. The English teacher in me loves puns and wordplay. And I came up with this idea. Sleuthing sloth is what I wrote down in my notebook.
Fun. Yeah.
And I didn't touch it for another 3 years.
3 years is like your magic, like percolation.
Just let it.
You're marinating. Yeah.
I'm definitely a percolator. But I think because I was thinking, oh, this wants to be a picture book, and it didn't want to be a picture book. So it took me 3 years to even touch the idea. And then I touched it, and it was another 3 years to realize, oh yeah, this first draft of this horrible picture book actually does want to be a chapter book, and to learn to listen to the manuscript and what the manuscript really wants to be versus what I want it to be. But I'm sorry, I'm not answering your question. I know.
No, that's okay.
I was agented. I signed with my agent, I think around 2015, and my picture book came out in 2017. And let's see, we sent it out, I think, maybe we sent it out in 2020, and it received, and it was a small round, I don't know, maybe 8 editors or so. And it received some nice rejections, but like nothing, it wasn't like champagne rejection. So I knew that more revisions need to happen. And so then we sent it out again. So we did some more revisions, sent it out again in 2022. And that's when Erin at Pascal at Andrews McMill Kids was interested, sort of. She said, this is hilarious, but Cindy Marco's Sloth Sleuth, which is a graphic novel geared towards the same age group, was just announced. And we didn't know about that. So she said, will you change the main character? And I channeled my inner Jane Yolen. I could hear her talking in the back of my head. Because Jane's answer is always yes.
Yeah,
and I was like, yes, I will. I will change the main character. And so talked to my agent about, who that main character should be. And I ended up changing it to a hedgehog.
It's time for this week's book reviews. When this episode airs, Josh will be in the middle of a similar situation to the main character in Elisha Cooper's River. On River, in a canoe, doing his best to stay afloat. Unlike Cooper's book, The Rare Bird, which Josh reviewed a couple of episodes back, River bucks a lot of expectations about picture books. It's wordy, its structure is non-traditional, it has an adult protagonist and basically no other characters, and it's framed as a fictional travelogue. But it's not hard to see the value in this story of determination and calm persistence, as the main character is tiny on the page and unemotional, thus serving as a filter through which readers can imagine themselves in the same sort of lived experience in nature. And my review for this week is For Landing in a New Pond by Marisa Ramel, illustrated by Jennifer Doehring. This book does the very special job of taking the reader's hand and walking us through how it feels to be in a new place and really makes us feel seen. It's a celebration of the things we hold on to and how we move on. A must for any bookshelf. Don't forget to get your own reviews and library requests in. It's the #1 way to help an author's sales. And now, back to our show.
Because we talk about this a lot, the Jane Yolen is not telling you just do what this editor says. Just take the notes. It's more a matter of you believe in the story to the extent that you want to make sure that it's working, and the feedback that you were getting was in service of a stronger story, not just the fact that it conflicted with Sloth Sleuth.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think probably if the time frame had been shorter, right, maybe I would have been even more emotionally tied to the manuscript and like, oh, I'm not changing my main character. I was really sad to lose the sloth. Like, I loved the sloth, but hedgehogs are cute too. Like his name didn't change. He still remained, we knew, okay, so like he's slow-footed but sharp-witted. So we still need a character who wants to sleep a lot and is pretty sedentary so that he can be observing things and figuring out these mysteries, but he doesn't actually want to be figuring out these mysteries, right? He still wants to be sleeping. So when my agent approached me about the change, she already had a list of like, I've done the research, here are all the animals that I think could work. And
I'm sorry, your agent did the research.
Yeah, maybe she was trying to soften the blow.
That's very endearing that she comes to you with all these animal facts.
Yeah. So we decided on, of course I loved Panda PI, that idea, but in the manuscript, it's the giant panda that goes missing. And I just thought that was funny. Like, how does a giant panda, like this huge animal, go missing? And so I didn't want to lose that humor. And so that's why we ended up going with a hedgehog. And I like the alliterative, Hedgehog Whodunit as well.
Yeah.
It's surprising to me, and tell me if you've gotten this comment before, it's surprising to me that it started as something other than the hedgehog, because it fits so perfectly with the theme or the character distillation of this grumpy guy that doesn't want to do the work that is part of this like noir story archetype of this reluctant sort of hero. It's the physical manifestation of the animal embodies the character. I think it makes a lot of sense. And so I had assumed that it was always that.
Yeah, no, he changed. But interestingly, his voice didn't change much. If we get to this dead manuscript, like even from being a bad picture book to being a chapter book, it was very character driven. Like it was his voice that I first heard. And so I don't think he as a character, like, yes, he changed from a sloth to a hedgehog, but like his personality didn't change, right? His inner, the core of him.
Was that the main feedback from Erin, or the main, like, because it sounds like kind of a soft, like, R&R. Like she liked the actual story, but there was a conflict in this other book coming out. Was that her main thing? And she was like, look, if you change the main character, then we can kind of move forward with this.
I mean, there was no, like, I think she's probably said, you know, if she's up for changing the main character, I'll take a look at it again. Something along those lines.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
And that was the main feedback at that point. But then we did do another round of revisions after she acquired the text that involved a few more bigger pieces.
So, okay. So how long did it take then to, because, you know, in theory, it's like, oh, sure, change the main character. That's like super easy. But it's not that easy. Because, like, I mean, you know, you're saying, yeah, the voice stays the same. The general plot stays the same. But because your character was so, like, it was written in such a punny, like, wordplay way, because even just the first chapter has a play on, like, you know, the fact that he's a hedgehog and he's prickly and, like, these are how many quills, right? So, like, that's very specific to a hedgehog, and you have to go through the entire book to change all of that. So, like, it's not a heavy lift in terms of, like, rewrite the plot, but you would have to go through the whole book to comb through or change that. So, like, how long did that part take?
Right. I actually don't think that took very long.
Okay.
I say that as a very slow writer and a slow reviser, like maybe a couple months.
So not the 3 years of percolation that we're used to. Right. That's great.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, that is pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah. Granted, I stepped out of the classroom at that point because I was staying at home with my son who was little. So I had a toddler running around, but I was able to, and I remember revising it would that be right? I guess I remember doing the first round of revisions during the pandemic, and then we sent it out, and that's when Erin saw that version. So I was able to dedicate more time to it.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't teaching.
So she said change the main character, then like 3 months later, change the main character, sent it back, and then did she acquire it? Or you're saying there was a couple more? Okay, so she acquired it, and that's like 2020? Is that where we're at?
2022, I think. Yeah, 2022 is when she acquired it. Changed the main character, she acquired it. And then...
So that's like 2 years in between change your character and then actual acquiring. I'm just trying to sort of draw the timeline because publishing takes so long, and that, you know, like, this is a success story. So I just kind of want to lay out, you know, what that actually looks like realistically, you know?
I wrote it down. I'm checking. We sent it out
Brenna's
again.
sleuthing. She's timeline sleuthing.
Yeah, I'm just
like a detective.
Curious, you know?
So we sent it out initially in 2020. Received like, yeah, this is cute, but no like champagne rejections. And then sent it out in 2022.
Okay.
And I think that was probably in the spring. And she was like, are you willing to change that main character? And I did it over the summer. And then she acquired it in 2022.
Okay, got it. Okay, so acquired, and then it came out in 2025. So what happened in those 3 years? So
the first book came out last fall in 2024.
Oh, okay. Yeah, excuse me. So that's 2 years, yeah.
We did do a big round of revision. There were a couple things that she wanted me to address, two of which were very like chapter book things that I needed to figure out. And one was just toning down the humor and finding the sweet spot, because of course, like, I wanted to throw in everything, including the kitchen sink. And I had already done a round of that with my agent as well. So like I said, I'm a slow reviser. I like chip away at things.
It's so hard to take stuff out when you're like, oh, but this is so clever and this is really funny. And like, I don't want anyone to miss out on like this hilarious thing. So you're just like, oh.
And I imagine this must have been part of your thought process though, but like the more you take out to balance the story, the more ammo you already have for other stories, which is especially in service of a chapter book series. Just stretch it out so you're not just blowing all your best jokes in the first
Right.
book.
And I started an Excel document where I went through and I charted like all of the devices that I used. So any idioms, any puns, any animal facts. And at first I was doing that to make sure that the characters were consistent, right? So that like if Vinny the rat is quick moving, his sentences often mimic his movement, right? So he has a lot of like long run-on sentences where he's just trying to get everything out. I wanted to make sure that Hitch, the hedgehog, didn't do that, right? So his humor is much more like short and to the point, and his sentences are much more short and to the point. So at first I was doing that just to make sure that my animals were consistent. And then also that there weren't too many idioms in any one chapter or in any one page or paragraph. And I did that first, revision with a highlighter on paper. And then I created the spreadsheet once I think that the manuscript sold, because we sold it as a 3-book deal. And so then I was like, oh, I'm going to need to keep track of all this and make sure that I don't repeat myself.
So when you were tracking in the Excel document, was that like a global tracking, like over the whole book, or were you doing like chapter by chapter, like to balance it? Yeah, she's not.
I was doing chapter by chapter. Yeah. So I have a sheet for book 1, and then a sheet for book 2, and a sheet for book 3. And I go back and forth between the two characters.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I feel like that sheds a lot of light on like how you sort of go about doing this. If there's anyone out there, thinking like, I actually have a manuscript that should probably be a chapter book, but like I also don't want to do it. So first channel your inner Jane Yolen and then sort of spreadsheet it out. And yeah, it's helpful. The sort of like blueprint behind the scenes is interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, that was one piece of advice was, okay, so we really need to trim this down a little bit in order to find the sweet spot between, having high concept humor, but also having it be age appropriate, because these are emergent readers. And then the other thing, so there were 2 other things that I needed to do. One was just a plot. My like all is lost moment wasn't very all is lost. In the draft that she acquired, I think they stumble upon the panda at the party and that's it. Like there was no moment of like Hitch, like wallowing in
larger stakes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely needed to go back and tweak that. So I went back. I'm a big Save the Cat fan. I know it can be too prescriptive for some people, and how I use it with each manuscript varies, but I had already beat out the manuscript according to Blake Snyder's 15 beats as part of my drafting process. Sometimes I do it like as a brainstorm to see what I'm thinking, and sometimes I will start drafting and then invariably I get stuck and I'm like, okay, what's not working? And then I'll beat it out. So I already had a version where I had done all of the beats, and I went back and was able to see like, yeah, this isn't actually the all is lost moment. And so I had to get up and rebeat it out, if you will. So that was another thing that I needed to do. And then the third thing, which was hard for me as a picture book writer, was when we sold the manuscript, it didn't have any illustration notes in it because I was a picture book writer, right? And you need to save room for the illustrator.
Right.
Because that's half the story. And there's this magical synergy that's created when an illustrator has all this room to add to the project and to bring their own vision and to make the whole project even better than you had ever imagined.
Right.
And so there were no illustration notes in it. And Erin's, one of her first notes was, I need you to go back in and add 50 illustration notes. And
this
I was
is counter to everything I've been taught.
Yeah. That's so funny, especially because, just like, I feel like that could break your brain a little bit, because I'm in sort of a similar situation where my agent and I were sort of looking at like what our sub list was like what we had out. And she was like, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to pull everything and revise it for fall submissions. She's like, this is what I want you to do. Take out all of your art notes and really like write it in the text. Like, I need you to really be clear about what's happening. I don't want any dialogue tags, which I love dialogue and I love a character driven story. So that's kind of where I feel like I shine. And when she first suggested it, I had a little bit of a breakdown, and I just was like, no, and like this, I was like aghast, right? I was like, are you kidding me? Right? Josh is nodding. He's read my stuff.
Yeah.
So like
That's like contrary to exactly.
Yeah. Lots of action, lots of talking. Anyways, so I took like 36 hours to pout about it. And then I pulled out the first manuscript she suggested and I started doing it. And I went downstairs to my husband and I was like, she was right. It's so much better. I'm like, I have so much work to do.
Yeah.
But, like you're saying, yes, for picture book authors, our art notes everyone has their own stance. For me, writing it without the art notes has made my stuff a lot stronger, much to my chagrin. Anyways, but, now being in the other camp where you've got this chapter book and they're like, please tell us what is happening, is just sort of like, oh, like you want my input. Okay, hold on. I'm going to have to like switch gears and be a lot more prescriptive. Same with, this is the last thing I'll say. I'm sorry. I am a little like Vinny where I just like talk and run on sentences. So I'm
love that
sorry.
connection.
But the last thing I'll say is, so like I do have a graphic novel picture book coming out, and that is the exact inverse. Like you have to write everything down. It has to be very detailed. This is exactly what's happening in each panel. This is who's talking. This is the next spread. Anyways, depending on the format, it's a lot. It's crazy to have to learn and relearn all these formats. Yeah.
Just cut your art notes from this stuff you're revising and paste them into the graphic novel and you're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Very confusing, but
oh my gosh.
I had that same pushback. Like I wanted to push back and be like, you know what? Gal's got this. Like
you guys
she's
figure
gonna
it
be
out.
fine.
She's
And
fine.
she probably would have been fine. But I think because a chapter book is so heavily illustrated and they're in a crunch for time, it's saving them time to be like, draw this on this page. But two, I think it also made me a better writer, right? Like Erin did go in with that first round and she started to put in illustration notes to give me an idea of what she was thinking and just like pacing, like how often illustrations would appear. And then by the time I was drafting book 2, I was adding the illustration notes as I was drafting. And then by the time I was writing book 3, I was thinking visually and, just chuckling to myself, like, what would Gal have fun drawing during the World Championships? How about some synchronized swimming elephants?
Yeah.
Like, that's hilarious. So
It's fun.
I figured it out, and I think I'm a better writer because I had to figure it out. But I definitely had that phase where I was like, wanting to push back. And
right.
And it's interesting too for this. I think it's a different conversation for picture books, but what you're saying about the synchronized swimming, it's interesting to think in terms of illustrating a chapter book as supplementing the story and not depicting the story.
right. You're aiding their reading comprehension. And there are certainly, a few things that are in the illustrations that aren't in the text, but that's mostly Gal having fun, right? Like you can see a hint of the panda that I didn't pick up on the first couple times when I flipped through the book, right?
Well, that's a fun Easter egg, yeah.
Yeah. And then in book 2, she has the panda still in the lemur costume in line on one of the pages. So there's a little allusion to book 1 as well. So her sense of humor is just so perfect for this project. I can't imagine a better illustrator.
Okay, so did you want to say more about the illustrations, Josh? I wanted to go back and talk about other stuff.
I was just going to observe, this is one of the reasons that AI can't replace human illustrators, just because AI is in every aspect of our lives right now. You could not ask an AI model to infer or think about in a creative way what would be valuable and cheeky and, wink, wink to the audience in a story in that same way. So anyway, not part of your concern in writing this book. It's just, these are things that we think about right now. Anyway, go ahead, Brenna. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, I just wanted to go back and ask then about the sort of agent journey and how that came about. So your debut picture book came out in 2017, and that was an agented book, right? So can you walk us through your agent journey?
Yeah. So it's, I wouldn't say it's not super exciting because she just pulled me out of the traditional slush pile.
I mean, that's a success story though. I feel like that gives people hope,
So like I said, I think I took my first class with Linda Ashman around 2011 and joined SCBWI shortly after that and started getting, professional critiques at conferences and realized pretty quickly, like, oh, I don't know as much as I think I know. I need to slow down and really just study the craft. In that process, I got married. We moved to Germany for a couple years. And so I think I sent out submissions to my agent. It's Janine Lay. She was with Sheldon Fogelman for a number of years. And then she just started her own agency a few years ago. And
Okay.
I was still in Germany, actually, when I submitted to her. And I think I submitted to about 8 agents. And I had like a second round ready to go. But I knew I was getting close because I was getting interest from agents that worked with authors just for one book. Mm-hmm. I think I also I used to do a lot of Susanna Leonard Hill's holiday contest.
Yeah.
Placed in one of the contests. So I knew I was getting closer and my craft was improving. And I sent Janine 2 manuscripts and she got back to me within a week, I think, and asked for 2 more manuscripts. She actually, I think I remember her making a comment like, actually, your second 2 manuscripts were stronger than your first 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are you even doing?
Yeah. And then we moved back to the States and I attended the Rocky Mountain chapter SCBWI conference in the fall and met the agent who was with Sleeping Bear. And I shared my manuscript, A Symphony of Cowbells, with her. And Janine hadn't even seen that manuscript yet because I knew it's a quiet manuscript. So I didn't think it was one of my stronger manuscripts because it was so quiet.
Right.
But Sleeping Bear does tend to do, I think, some quieter stories.
Yeah.
And they tend to focus on the educational market as well. And so this editor was interested in the manuscript and just asked for a couple revisions. And so I worked on those with Janine and then we sent it to her and it was acquired, I think, just a few months later.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty quick. I feel like, agent and then editor response and then sort of like looping everyone in and then picture book. So then that one was acquired in 2017, and then there's a little bit of a stretch before the Whodunit, and I'm assuming part of that is you had a kid, so that definitely
those stinking kids.
Yeah,
I'm only curious because number one, publishing is hard, right? And number two, even if you feel like you're getting close, sometimes it happens where there's these like chunks of time or these like long stretches where you're writing, you're submitting, you're doing all of the things, and you don't have anything coming out. It just happens. So, but I think especially because it's such a solitary thing, this writing thing, it's interesting and helpful to hear other people talk about, what is actually happening, in those stretches. Like what does that look like for you?
Yeah. And this was especially solitary because we also had a pandemic in there as well, right?
Oh man. Right. And were you still in Germany? Sorry, because that can also be, if you're in a different country, that's also it can be a little bit isolating,
I was well, by the time my picture book came out, we were back in the States.
Oh, okay.
It came out, in 2017. And then, my son was, I think, 5 months when we went into lockdown. So, and I decided not to go back to teaching when he was born. So I was especially isolated for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot. And then, so were you writing other manuscripts in this time? Like was the original picture book for Hedgehog Whodunit part of this sort of pandemic writing chunk of time?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I remember doing the first round of revision as a chapter book during the pandemic. And I was writing other manuscripts. Julie Hedlund's one of my critique partners, so I was participating in 12.
Yeah.
Just trying to get a lot of manuscripts out. Not out submission, but like
out of you. Yeah.
Just trying to generate more material, right? And we were sending stuff out and we were getting, some nice rejections and some manuscripts that went to editorial or requests for further work. I tend to write a lot of very niche picture books, or it turns out picture books that aren't actually picture books. So I think that one of the manuscripts that I sent my agent when I signed with her, I think it wants to be like a really early chapter book, but I haven't had time to play around with that. But so, I definitely do sometimes still go back to some of those earlier manuscripts that didn't sell because part of me just wants to figure it out. Like, how does this story work, and why isn't it working right now?
Yeah.
But then also too, I think part of it is my voice naturally, like chapter books seems to be a really sweet spot for me in terms of my voice. Like that's my natural voice and I think I have the sense of humor of an 8-year-old. I think that just maybe is more of my sweet spot than picture books.
Yeah. Do you have, so I know you have one more for the Hedgehog Whodunit series coming out. Is there a possibility for an extension of that series? Or is there another series that you're also working on, since, this feels like a sweet spot for your voice? Like, is this like a major shift in your writing? Like, will you focus on chapter books?
Yeah, it's not, I would say, a major shift because I am still writing picture books and we're about to send a couple out on submission. I would love for there to be more Hedgehog Whodunit books. I love this world. I love the characters. Just escaping into this punny zoo during the pandemic was exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be dependent on sales and how the series does. I do have other ideas in mind, but because I have gone back into the classroom, my son's he's about to turn 6 later this month. So he still needs a lot of my attention. I don't always have the time to devote to writing. It's not that season for me right now.
So we've gone far longer than I intended without talking about the fact that your second deal was for 3 books. And I'm interested in how you felt about that after, as we've been talking about, this has taken some time. How did having a 3-book deal make you feel? With this new discipline, this new format, this longer format, and this world that you had been sort of percolating for a number of years, you hear it both ways, and we've talked to authors that see it both ways. It can be burdensome, not in a truly negative sense, but really like putting constraints on your writing process that wouldn't be there if you were writing solely for yourself with like original IP that was right off the dome. But it can also be helpful that you're writing within a framework. And regardless, it's a measure of belief in your work that they're buying things that haven't even been written yet.
Yeah. And to be clear, we did sell it. So book 1 was written, but then we did also pitch. I included a short paragraph for both books 2 and book 3, which is something that Marcy had us do during class was, okay, so come up with a pitch for the whole series, right? This is what is not going to change from book to book. And then come up with a pitch for a couple other books. And so when we submitted it, book 1 was completely done. And I had pitches for book 2 and book 3. And so when they bought it, I was like, great. And then when I had to go back and write book 2, which was years later, right? So because we sold it, I said in 2022. And then I'm probably writing, book 2 just came out this summer in 2025. So I was probably writing book 2 in like 2020. And I had taken Marcy's class in 2018. Like I wrote the synopsis for the series and the synopsis for these books years ago. And I was so thankful to like my past self for having done the work. And, she had us create what she called character Bibles too, where like, here's a description of each of the main characters, what they look like, but also what they look like on the page, right? And what the syntax and the diction looks like. And so I was going back to this and it almost felt like I was writing, it was work for hire, right? Like I was writing somebody else's story because it had been such a big break between 2018 and 23, when I was writing book 2. But there was a little bit of that added pressure, like, oh gosh, like I got to get this right. They've already purchased it. But then I would get into the first couple chapters, I was hemming and hawing and not wanting to do the work, and it was super slow and I was plodding along. And then, like during the fun and games section of the story, like it became fun. And that happened with book 2, and then it happened again with book 3. So, it's like you pick up and it feels like, golly, I'm writing do I know anything? I'm writing from scratch.
You start over. Right.
Learned
Yeah.
anything in this whole process.
What we can learn from this whole process is clearly Marcy Colleen's course had a great impact on you.
Yes.
That the fact that you have internalized all of these lessons that you took away so many years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll add one more lesson that she taught us: to watch cartoons. Children's
Easy
cartoons.
peasy.
Right?
That's great homework.
This counts as work. Great. Sign me up.
Yeah, right. I'm in Inked Voices currently, and I went back into the archives and listened to a webinar that she had done on chapter books. And it was super helpful. It was more of a sort of like overview, of what it looks like. So it wasn't as in depth as her actual class. But I do remember listening to her, taking a bunch of notes, doing a bunch of stuff. And then I was like, oh, okay, I need to watch her site for when her class comes open again, because just the big picture webinar had been so insightful. I was like, oh, okay, this is like a super worthy class if I'm gonna, pursue picture or chapter books. So yeah, she's
does it
amazing.
Annually through the Writing Barn.
Yes, and she has on her website, I saw it come up also. There was like a I don't know, it became available. Anyways, I did not take the class because I got sidetracked with a bunch of other things, but just a shout out to Marcy Colleen, who is incredible.
Yeah.
Come on the podcast, Marcy.
We're going to hire her to write the curriculum guide for the series. So she wrote a blurb when the book came out, and then
awesome.
She's going to write the curriculum guide once book 3 is published.
Oh, that's cool. Very cool.
I have an education question, because you've both name dropped workshops, but Heather, I mean, especially you've talked about a lot of these things that you've participated in as continuing education. Do you have a philosophy on when you're done learning? And probably the answer is never.
Right. I mean, the teacher in me is going to say we're always learning, right?
That's right. And that's a great growth mindset to be in, but you've got your MFA and you've taken all these classes. Is your thought that you need to participate in this to stay fresh and to make sure that you're thinking about this in the right way and getting your work in front of other people? Because the other step back from that process is, look, I'm going to focus all my energy on just writing, just keeping it up and keeping it going without sort of this formulaic process, because it doesn't have to be that.
That's definitely my thought process, but also, and too, because the industry is always changing, right? Like, when I first started writing picture books back in 2011, what was interesting and new and different has changed. And so, yes, staying fresh, but also I just love to learn, right? Like, I love
a nerd.
I know. If I could go back to school, like if somebody would pay me to, if it wasn't so expensive, I would be a student, or just a perpetual student.
My husband says that all the time. Like, he's like that too. Like, he just loves to learn like a new skill or a new hobby and just get like really proficient and like be able to like add these things to like what he's doing. Yeah. So it's, which is a great skill to have, because then you just sort of keep expanding.
Yeah. I was listening to on my runs this summer, which is when I listened to all of your podcast episodes, by the way.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Those are some long runs.
Yeah, well, and because keep in mind, I'm not in the classroom, so that I can actually go running during the summer. But I wasn't listening to them in order. So like your journeys to signing with an agent and getting published are all kind of scrambled in my mind. So
yeah. No, that's okay.
But then I was also like, wait, how did I not know that this podcast has existed for 5 years? And then I was like, oh, because my son is 5 years old.
Oh, that's so funny.
Right?
Yeah.
And I sort of stepped away from the writing and just being in writing when he was born in the pandemic and all of that. But anyway, I was listening to the SCBWI podcast with Theo Baker, and he was interviewing Kate Messner. And I thought her framework, she talks about how she often approaches like outdoor pursuits the same way that she approaches writing, which is like she asks herself, I wonder if I could do that. And the more challenging it is, kind of the more excited she is to do that project.
Oh, that's cool.
And so that was an interesting shift for me from going, as someone who was like too scared to tackle a chapter book for 3 years to thinking, I wonder.
Give it a try.
I
What do we
wonder
have?
if
Yeah,
I
yeah.
could.
What do we have to lose?
So that makes me remember, I think it was Kate Messner. She lives in Colorado, right?
No, I think she's in
Or
New
am I
England.
thinking, maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. Did she write a book about climbing recently? Is that her? No.
She did
Maybe
write a
I'm
book
getting-
about, well, she was talking about hiking all the Adirondacks. So
Cool.
is she in New York then?
Okay, maybe. Well, I thought it was her. She was on Bluesky and saying like, I have a rock climbing book coming out. Who else has, adventure-based books coming out? And I was like, oh wait, you're a rock climber? Like, tell me more. And she had, if it was Kate Messner, now I'm getting the names confused, but this person, this author was like, yeah, I've climbed, but it's mostly my son who's really into it, and I go with him and whatever. Anyways, it made me put the pieces together because yeah, it is, the challenge of it is like the thing that sort of like pulls you in, because that's why I rock climb. That's, partly why I write, because it's like, oh yeah, like how can I tell this story in a way that is like engaging to other people. So I may have drawn all the wrong conclusions there, but the piece of the challenge remains. Yeah, I feel that makes, that's perfect sense.
I don't know if this is a funny anecdote, but I was a competitive diver in high school and college.
Wow.
And I had my high school coach would often say, Heather, you would be a great master's diver. And it's like, if you compete through college and then you keep competing post college and when you go to these like US sanctioned meets, there are people in their 40s, 50s, still diving. And he would say, you would be a great master's diver, because it took me so long to fix a mistake. And the longer it took me, the longer I performed that mistake, then the longer it would take to fix. And I feel the same way in writing, like that, like I'll be a great master's writer, like, like years down the road here, because I'm just so slow, but I do kind of like that challenge. And I used to rock climb as well. And I just loved I was climbing indoors. I wasn't climbing outdoors, but like you go into the gym and it's similar to diving. Like that's all you can think about. Like you can't, if your mind wanders somewhere else, like you can get in trouble. And I loved that just break that gave me. Whereas when I go running, and I love running too, but my mind is like percolating and thinking about things.
Yeah. Like that's part of what drew me to climbing too, because I'm like, that is one of the only things that will shut my brain up. Like the harder it is, the more risky, the more dangerous, the more in it I am. And so like, if it's not hard enough, it doesn't have the same effect. So like right now I tweaked my shoulder recently. So I've had to do like physical therapy and stuff, which it's like fine. But she's like, okay, look, you can climb, but it has to be on top rope. You can't do anything hard, and it can't be overhung. And I'm like, what's the point? I'm like, what am I even doing here? I'm like so mad, right? I'm going to the gym and like sulking. I'm like, okay, I have to remember, like, at least I can get on the wall. I can move. I can whatever. But it is not at all the same. I'm up there and like my brain is like spiraling. I'm not like getting a super good workout. I'm just like, whatever. Okay. Like anyways, yes, it needs to be challenging.
Have you literally tried climbing with one hand tied behind your back though? Because that feels like the natural expansion.
Right? Like that's the obvious. Wait. So, sorry, Josh.
No, yeah, I know you're gonna transition, because I also want to do the dead manuscript thing. I want to sum up what I hear as this growth mindset message, and whether this is conscious or inherent in who you are, Heather, I don't know, but it was meaningful to me thinking of this as a challenge, because you can think about this struggle as work. What a bummer that I have to, like, it's not happening. I have to keep slogging through this until I've unlocked the door and gotten to the next stage and I've made it. Or you can think about this as like this is an energizing challenge, like a puzzle for me to unlock and figure out. And I'm reflecting on that for myself, just because you can go both ways. You can think about this as work, or you can think about this as like work. And for the listening audience, I'm sort of like pumping my fist in an energized way.
Emphasizing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's bummer work or it's energizing work. So anyway, I think that's useful framing.
Okay, but can we hear the dead manuscript? Because we're up to an hour, but I would love to hear it if you have time.
Sure. No, yeah, I have it. It's pretty short. It's 359 words.
Oh my gosh, it is so short. And it went into...
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. And now it's a
Yeah.
whole
This is
series.
the first draft of the picture book manuscript that I checked in November of 2015. And I might add a few just speaker tags for the listening audience.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. The title at this point was The Case of the Missing Marquis, a Sleuthing Sloth Mystery. And then there was an author's note at the beginning. On each page, we see monkeys carrying letters, fruit, flowers, etc. Sid, the sleuthing sloth, is oblivious to it all, and Rat does all the work. I know what you're thinking. Sloths don't sleuth. In fact, we have a reputation for not doing much of anything. But that's bunk. Let me set the record straight. I run this joint. Name's Sid. And this is Rat. He's a rat, aka an informer. We're in a jam, boss, said Rat. Someone has stolen all the letters on the zoo's marquee. No letters means visitors won't know that this Friday is National Hibiscus Day, I said. We need to find the perpetrator. Right after I take a nap. On Monday, we made our first visit. What's the wire on the penguins? I asked. Looks fishy, said Rat. And there's an illo note. The sign on the penguin enclosure that used to say, please don't throw objects, now says, please throw sardines. I'd like to ask you a few questions, I said to the kingpin. Know anything about missing marquee letters? No, we've just been chillin'. The lions were up to something shady, piped in another penguin. Let's give them a buzz. That's lingo for pay them a visit. Right after I finished grooming, I said. On Tuesday, we slunk over to the lion's lair. I had to wear my cheaters to blend in. That's lingo for sunglasses. And there's an illo note. The sign on the lion's pen that used to say, zookeeper says stay back, now says zookeeper says disco. I'd like to ask you a few questions, I said to the fat cat. Know anything about missing marquee letters? Not a thing. We've been busy boogieing. He's lying, said Rat, and I can smell it. Ask the monkeys, said Lion. They've been up to their usual shenanigans. All I could smell were visions of tangy, tasty hibiscus flowers. Write the lions down as suspects, I said. On Wednesday, we slipped over to the monkey's cage. There's an illo note. The sign on the cage that used to say spider monkeys now says sacred monkey. I'd like to ask you a few questions, I said to the muckety-muck. Know anything about missing marquee letters? He didn't respond. There's an illo note. He's busy meditating atop an altar with offerings piled around it. Look, boss, said Rat. I see a mug red-handed. Another illo note. One monkey has the letters R, E, and D in his hands. He's making a clean sneak. That's lingo for an escape. But I was too busy meditating. It was heavenly. And then there's an illo note of a wordless spread of Rat arresting the monkey and bringing them to a zoo jail while Sid meditates. On Thursday, I cracked the case. Seems the monkey wanted all the fruit and flowers, my flowers, for himself. Now they're facing time in the big house. That's lingo for jail. Boss, I just got word the hyenas received a mysterious message, said Rat. I'll get right on it, I said. But first, I'm going to put my feet up and relax. Literally. Gosh, it's tough to go back and read the first draft.
Yeah, but looking at it from our perspective, it's fascinating because of how much has carried through in the final product. I mean, I opened up the book and looked at the first page, and it's the same words from the same first draft. And the same sort of like asides and same sort of relationship.
And, like,
I think it's really
sign
fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of similarities. And I will say from the very first sentence, I too was like, oh yeah, that's chapter book voice. Like sort of addressing the crowd and just being like, yeah, like we're going to do this thing. And like, come on, it's this whole, it just was very like, yeah, that is a very natural, like, I'm so glad that you made it into a chapter book because it's so, it's so funny. It's so good.
Just took me a while to get there. That's all. 12 years.
Right. I mean, no big deal. Thank you for sharing that with us because it can be hard to go back. Like, we get that, but I always love when people are willing to share because it's really fun and just super enlightening, to see where it came from. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And hopefully it gives readers hope, right? Like if I
Yes.
stuck with
Yes.
this project for 12 years and turned it into, a published chapter book series, if I can do it, anybody can.
Yes, a 3-book chapter book series, which big congratulations, by the way. And listening audience, look for her next book coming out in 2026, right? Tell us the title. It's something Peanuts. I forget
The
now.
Protective Order of Peanuts.
Thank you. Yes.
And then in parentheses, we were deciding whether or not to do this. It's P.O.O.P.
Yeah. I feel like
you gotta have at least one poop joke in every book.
I mean, yeah. If 8-year-olds are your target audience, yes.
Yep.
I have one of those at home, 8-year-old boy. So he would approve.
This one involves a missing elephant, a secret society, and some questionable disguises.
I love all of this. Yes, please look for Heather's books everywhere. If you're local to us, come see her at the Longmont Library. Although this will be out. This will be out way after.
Come see her 6 months in the past.
But
yeah, exactly.
But look for her books. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. And I know we've gone like over the hour here, but I really appreciate you sticking around and doing Dead Manuscript and all of the stuff and just chatting.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. Like I said, I've been listening to you guys every day over the summer, so it's an honor
running from us for months.
Be on this side.
I love that.
Yeah.